And last week, I got skewered, Jonathan. I got skewered for saying that everybody knew this was coming in January. Look at this. January, this incredible Washington Post article, December 31st, the CDC begins developing reports for HHS after getting information about the virus from Wuhan. On January the 3rd, formal notification of COVID-19 from China to the CDC. This is all from the Washington Post article yesterday. 2 days later, U.S. spy agencies warned Trump in early January of an outbreak in the president's daily brief. January the 3rd, the CDC chief relays distributing news to HHS Azar, the disturbing news. On the same day, on the 3rd, Azar shares the Chinese virus notification with the White House and the National Security Councils. This is all of this by January the 3rd. On January the 6th, the CDC offered assistance to China, who turned down that offer. That same week, the HHS convened an interagency task force on COVID-19 with HHS Secretary Azar, the CDC head, and Fauci. On the 8th of January, the CDC issued a public warning about the coronavirus. On the 14th of January, HHS Assistant Secretary Robert Cadillac begins drawing up plans to implement the Defense Production Act to fight the virus. Jonathan, I could go on practically every day that month. Things are happening. But this is on the 14th of January. He's drawing up plans so the president can use the Defense Production Act. Of course, that has been an ongoing fight. And he scribbles one word, Jonathan, on his notebook: coronavirus. This is on January the 14th. My God, 2 months later, I mean, it's still, actually coming up on 3 months later, it's still a mess. But even,
no testing.
2 months after that, it was still chaos when it came to the Defense Production Act. And 3 months after, we still, like, the president actually announced yesterday something like 1,500 tests. 1,500 tests that were released by Abbott in a country of 320 million people.
Yeah, that's not good.
The catchphrases from the president about the drug yesterday were, "I've got a good feeling about this," and "What have you got to lose?" Well, for some Americans who take this drug, if it's not approved, they could lose their health. There certainly are side effects, and it's not about having a good feeling about this, and that's what Dr. Fauci has been trying to stress. It's about the science. It's about going through the rigorous testing program to make sure that this drug, which is effective against malaria and other things, can also be effective to treat the coronavirus, and we simply don't know yet. Let's back up a little bit about that briefing. There was no briefing scheduled for Sunday night. The White House schedule that came out Saturday evening said it was not listed. Sunday morning, aides told the reporters nothing on the schedule. And in fact, in the afternoon, they issued a lid, which is to pull back the curtain a little bit, is parlance for "you're not going to see the president today," telling reporters there won't be any public events. As the day goes on, though, according to our reporting, the president got antsy. He had told people that he loves that spotlight. He knows he gets good ratings. Sunday nights up against 60 Minutes. That's a moment he wants to preempt 60 Minutes. He wants to be able to go on and talk to the nation. He had seen Governor Cuomo earlier in the day deliver his press briefing. Though reporters had been told there wouldn't be one on Sunday because it was Palm Sunday, the president decided to go ahead and offer one. At the same time, mind you, that Joe Biden was doing a virtual town hall about the coronavirus. So perhaps a little presidential counter-programming. Reporters were hurried back to the White House. They attended the event, and as we all saw last night, there really wasn't much in the way of news. A lot of presidential bluster, obfuscation, and a lot of anger when pushed about the timeline. The issues, Joe, that you just highlighted in that terrific Washington Post story. Also, my colleagues at the Associated Press had a piece about how the government, that was released yesterday, about how the government only started ordering bulk orders of masks and respirators in the middle of March, well after the crisis was underway. And in fact, when my colleague Kevin Frecking asked the president about that in the final question of the day, that's when the president cut the briefing short and snapped at him. And they remain in an incredibly defensive posture, trying to explain how they were so slow to move on this crisis, even though they had warnings for months. And the president's inner circle was trying to convince him to act, to mobilize the federal government to do something about it.
And so we're looking at potentially 100 to 200,000 people dying, and looking at projections in the best of times. And the president last night, once again, Joe, taking 3 to 4 hours of his top tier team's time to work on his camera time so that he can go out there and get attention and deliver absolutely nothing new. These people standing on stage, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, and the other members of his team standing out there for hours, having to present something to the press, which meant they had to prepare something for the press. And it was all a complete waste of time, quite frankly, time that is being used to save lives, time that was not used last night because the president needed attention.
Well, and even when they're in these meetings, even when they're doing their jobs away from the cameras, they're getting distracted by idiots like Peter Navarro. That is, Navarro actually has the nerve to throw down files in front of Dr. Fauci saying that this is proven science, that he knows what he's talking about, and is yelling at Navarro, Navarro is yelling at Fauci. Also, the Washington Post article will talk about how these healthcare professionals who were scrambling to save our lives will be in the middle of important work, and they will get a call from Jared or somebody else saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could have Oracle helping us out with it? Remember the brilliant idea about how Google was going to do things with Walmart parking lot? It's all nonsense. It's not working. They're not letting medical professionals and healthcare professionals do their jobs. And let's bring the U.S. editor at Financial Times, Ed Luce. Ed, I want to talk to you and Caddy about Great Britain in a second. But as we go through this timeline that the Washington Post laid out, Azar, who had gotten the information at the beginning of January, when they were all getting together and meeting, and the intel community by January the 5th or 6th were warning the president in his daily briefings, tried for 2 weeks to get the president's ear. He finally got a phone call with him on the 18th. It was the 18th of January. Azar finally gets to talk to Trump about COVID-19. But Trump decides instead to talking about the pandemic, which, by the way, he had been warned about in his daily briefings. The president decides, since January 5th or 6th, the president decides instead to berate Azar, his HHS secretary, who's desperately trying to tell the president this, that he's angry at him over the HHS's attempts to limit vaping because it had backfired on him politically. And Azar said the president dismissed him as alarmist, and the secretary was so worried that he couldn't get the president's attention that he was asking an associate, how do I get him to pay attention to this? This is serious. Well, you know, you keep going through this list, and you have the president on the 22nd saying that he's not worried at all. We have it totally under control. It's only one person from China. It's going to be fine. That's when he was in Davos, in his ivory tower in Davos on January the 22nd. And then, of course, on the 23rd, as China is completely shutting down Wuhan and also not cooperating with us and blocks the U.S. lab from obtaining virus samples. On the 24th, this is when Donald Trump said, January, we're still in January, by the way, friends.
Right.
Trump offers lavish praise on China and its president, saying, quote, China has been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will work out well. In particular, on behalf of the American people, I want to thank President Xi. He praises China's transparency January the 24th, when it is China that will not give his own administration and health officials the information they need to prepare for this virus, soon to become a pandemic. It's just absolute chaos. The president's in Never Never Land for 70 days, and Americans are dying this week, in large part because we weren't prepared. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.